Discord's facial ID system is not looking popular. Nvidia is announcing Resident Evil Requiem GPU bundle. And I've got some more thoughts on Resident Evil Requiem's RTX stuff, some DRM going on with other RE Engine games, and AMD is not to be outdone by launching their own game bundle as well with Crimson Desert on certain GPUs and CPUs. And what the heck is going on with GPU pricing? It doesn't look good, but certain GPUs stand out as probably the best buys in the current market. We'll talk. And we're also seeing a Crimson Desert version of the 9070 XT coming from Sapphire. Nvidia will be having a GTC 2026 keynote on March 16th, and Microsoft's next-gen console could be coming in 2027, and the strategy could be completely different than all previous Xbox generations. It might be more PC-like, which could lead to these rumors about PC Game Pass merging with the standard version of Game Pass that could have pricing and service implications. And we also have insiders corroborating that there will be new Witcher 3, yes, 3 DLC, potentially to get people hyped up for Witcher 4 or to bridge some story gaps, canonize an ending. And then we have a new StarCraft incoming potentially, and it might not be an RTS game, could be a shooter. Remedy has a new CEO, and it's a sports betting guy. More on that in a minute. And Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag Remake may actually be coming soon. But let's get back to the beginning. All the timeline, timestamps will be available if you want to jump to a certain article, and all my sources will be linked in the video description. So what's going on with Discord alternatives searches jumping 10,000% overnight? Well, the company announced a global age verification system, and this could include either having to upload like government ID or for offering face scans. Now, all of this sounds terrible from a privacy perspective, especially given the fact that Discord is known to have had massive data breaches in the past. Hackers infiltrate Discord's ID checks, and it's bad news. 70,000 users' personal data exposed. So in other words, when companies who didn't previously require a bunch of personal information suddenly are going to require that, this obviously leaves a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. However, that kind of leaves it up in the air on, so is there an alternative? Now, alternative platforms are seeing surges in popularity. This is coming from Windows Central. But honestly, I'm not sure if any of them are like a complete replacement for what we're seeing from Discord. Now, if we're just looking for like a game chat like voice, which I know Discord is good for a lot more than that, but I wonder if Steam could look at expanding kind of its Steam calls system to have like a more obvious place and maybe be more Discord-like within the Steam UI. In other words, I wonder if this is another chance for Steam to just kind of be the alternative that is more user-friendly. In other words, there's a lot of memes about Steam just wins by just not doing anti-consumer things. And other platforms do, and then wonder why Steam is winning. So I just wonder personally if this is another place where Steam could do that and become a Discord alternative by just offering something like Discord in a convenient user interface thing without, scanning your face or whatnot. Anyway, let's get into some hardware news. So while GPU prices aren't amazing right now, Nvidia is now offering a Resident Evil Requiem bundle deal with certain RTX 50 series GPUs. Definitely not all of them. The details here are basically it's 5070 or better. So 5070, 5070 Ti, 5080, or 5090. And some laptops work as well, but again, 5070 or better on the laptops as well. Obviously, it also has to be participating retailers and e-tailers and all of that. Now, Resident Evil Requiem itself is interesting in that, first of all, just a lot of people seem very interested in the game. Capcom recently announced that it surpassed 5 million Steam wish lists, which, as far as I understand, is a pretty big number for wish lists on Steam, indicating probably going to have good sales. People are interested. And also Nvidia is showing off some like side-by-sides of their path tracing implementation. So this is going to be the next big game with path tracing, with Nvidia support on all that. And, they've got the little slider here. And if you look at like the reflections on the car and stuff, yeah, there's some pretty big differences with RTX on. The question is always, with the better reflections and lighting, is the performance trade-off worth it? So we'll have yet to see what is the performance impact of using all of that, but it certainly looks nice in their screenshots that they have. I'm certainly interested in testing the performance of this game on the channel when it launches. Now, speaking of performance, I was looking into whether it's using Denuvo or not, and believe it or not, I was actually hoping it would use Denuvo. And you might be, I get it. Oh, okay, before you scream at me and turn off the video and dislike, why am I mentioning that? Well, I haven't been able to test this myself yet, but it's come to my attention through posts like this that apparently Resident Evil 4 is running worse now, apparently up to 30% worse than the non-updated version of the game. Let's put it that way. And that's because Denuvo was actually removed, but it wasn't just removed. Enigma DRM was added in its place, and apparently this has much worse performance potentially than Denuvo. Now again, like I said, I haven't tested this myself, but it does seem to be confirmed that this is the case, that Enigma DRM is running significantly worse than Denuvo, and that's kind of rough. So yeah, it might be the case that Denuvo can hurt performance and be annoying, but if the other DRM alternatives are worse, well, I guess it's one of those like lesser of two evils situations apparently. So I did check the Steam Requiem page on Steam, and it does say it is using Denuvo. So now, does that mean that at some point in the future they'll switch to some other DRM and cost you performance? Maybe they still will. Also, what really annoys me with this is when games launch with Denuvo and I want to do benchmarking, it limits how many systems I can test it on, because they limit it to 5 different PCs within a day for a machine activation limit. Now, to me, this is just basically feels like it's targeting hardware reviewers. Like, I know it isn't. I know the idea is they want to detect if, like, somehow somebody's sharing this game with too many people or something, like too many people running the same version of the game. It's suspicious, whatever. But in reality, I think all this does is make people like me who want to test it out on a variety of PCs have a much worse time doing this. I have to be scared about switching out the GPU too many times or switching to another PC and what's going to trigger that. And it just makes my job harder, and I doubt that particular limitation actually helps anybody. So this is just a big frustration for me. But whatever. Anyway, I do plan on testing the game as much as I can on launch for performance, and maybe I'll see if there's any way to get like review access to the game that wouldn't be as picky about that. I don't know. Anyway. Now, AMD is also launching their own game bundle, this one for Crimson Desert. It also looks like a lot of people are interested in Crimson Desert, and I've actually been looking at it, and also the technical aspect of this game also looks really interesting. They've shown off some of their own ray-traced features, etc., and this being an AMD-sponsored game, you kind of wonder, okay, what's the performance impact going to be on that? I mean, it'll probably at least run well on AMD's 9000 series GPUs with all those RT effects in, but the game's minimum system requirements are set pretty low, so hopefully it at least scales down pretty well. Now, AMD also has some limits on which hardware is compatible with this game bundle. So they have CPUs that are compatible and GPUs that are compatible, but it's certainly the higher end of the lineup for both. So RX 9070 and 9070 XT are the GPUs that are compatible with this bundle deal. And for CPUs, it's X3D 9000 series. So 9800 X3D, 9850, 9900, and 9950 X3D chips. That's it. Now, Some laptop deals are also compatible, so there's a bunch listed here if you are interested in more of the laptop side of things. And you also need a compatible retailers, like, so for example, Amazon US is on the list. Again, all my sources in the video description, including this, so there's like 119 compatible retailers, so I'm not gonna bother to read them all through here, but you could search for the region and country and make sure that wherever you're planning on buying things does actually line up here. Now that does kind of bring us to, okay, so if you are thinking about buying a GPU and now you're like, okay, maybe I want the Nvidia bundle, maybe I want the AMD bundle, but what are the GPU prices looking like? Well, we should talk. So again, to get that Nvidia bundle deal, you got to go with the 5070 or better. Now the 5070 hasn't gone completely insane. The lowest price models are available at $620. Now granted, that's well over its MSRP of $550, and around Black Friday, I saw them as low as like $480. So this certainly feels bad to pay this price right now. It's at least not completely gone insane like the 5070 Ti, which has a $750 MSRP, but the lowest model that's actually in stock is at $950, so a good $200 over its MSRP. So if you're deciding between the 5070 or the 5070 Ti, it used to be like, well, 5070 Ti gets you 16 gigabytes of VRAM and more performance, like might make sense to pay the extra money. Now we're talking so much more money that I just don't think it makes any sense to buy a 5070 Ti right now. And the 5080 is actually even worse. The 5080 is barely better than a 5070 Ti, but now it's almost $1,400 for the lowest price models. So again, I think in the Nvidia lineup, the 5070, at least for the mid-range to higher-end stuff, is one of the only ones that still makes any sense at all. And I mean, the 5090 is like almost $4,000, so there's that. Now, if you want the best thing and $4,000 is within your budget, okay. But if that's within your budget, you probably don't care much about getting a game thrown in with it, okay? Now, how about the AMD side of things? So the 9070 is available at $630. So the 9070 is basically the same price as a 5070. It's about 10% faster and has 16 gigabytes of VRAM. So in this case, you know, if you were more into one game or the other, that could actually maybe push you in one, sweeten the deal a little bit one way or the other. Now the XT version is $100 more at $730. And at that price point, I mean, I think the selling point for the 9070 XT in the current market is that if you want anything this powerful from Nvidia, you're spending over $250 more because its competitor is the 5070 Ti. So the 9070 XT's selling point is really that it's the highest end GPU that hasn't gone completely insane. At $730, it's probably still within a good number of people's budgets. I mean, it's still pretty high end, but it hasn't gone completely off the rails. And again, the 9070 also, if that's just closer to your budget, could make sense. It's direct competitor with the 5070. So do you want the Nvidia ecosystem and their game bundle, or the AMD extra VRAM and their game bundle? Those kind of make sense. Now, while the lower end cards aren't compatible with these game bundles, since we're already talking, how about we look at the lower end of the market and see what's happening? From AMD, we have the 9060 XT, where the 8 gigabyte version is available at $350 and up. Its direct competitor is the 5060 Ti 8 gigabyte, which is available at $360. So if you're talking $350-ish, I think the Nvidia option makes more sense right now. They're both 8 gigabytes. And AMD does have the slight advantage of having the full PCIe 16 lanes. So when you are spilling over VRAM capacity, it can sometimes take a little bit less of a performance hit because of that. But also NVIDIA is a little bit more efficient on VRAM usage. So you're actually slightly less likely to spill over 8 gigabytes. So there's that. Also, the 5060 Ti tends to be a few percent faster, nothing to write home about, but then does give you the better NVIDIA feature set. So at the same price for the same VRAM and slightly more performance, I would go with the Nvidia option if you're kind of in this price point. And actually, if you're in the $350-ish price point and you're thinking about, okay, what about saving money and getting the non-TI version? Well, the non-TI version for the 5060 is actually almost $350. So this is further credence, further evidence that the leaked prioritization from NVIDIA is absolutely what's happening. The leaks were saying that of the 8GB models, the 5060 Ti 8GB is receiving priority, which means that there's less supply of the 5060 non-Ti, so its price is going up faster than the 5060 Ti version. So if there's barely any price difference between the 5060 non-Ti and the Ti, between the two, the 8GB 5060 Ti makes more sense than the non-Ti version. Now, if you go further down the product stack, you have the 5050. Which has a $250 MSRP, but these are also sold out at the MSRP, and then the lowest price I see is $260, and then they jump up to $283, $290, $300. So again, more evidence that this 8GB card is being deprioritized and supply is getting worse. So of all the 8GB NVIDIA cards, the best option in the current market is the 5060 Ti 8GB. And it also, I think, makes more sense than the AMD 9060 XT 8GB. But what about the 16GB options? As soon as you jump to the 16GB version of the 5060 Ti, price jumps to $540. They're clearly, again, deprioritizing production of the 16GB version. $540 makes no sense here. You're so close to cards like the 5070 or the 9070 in price now that it makes way more sense to buy those cards. They're just more powerful. How about AMD's alternative with the 9060 XT 16GB? This one is coming in at $440 for the lowest in-stock models. So I would say that in the current GPU lineup, if we're looking at new GPUs from the new lineups from AMD and Nvidia, and we're not looking used market, I would say that the least expensive GPU that isn't an 8GB card that makes sense to buy is probably the 9060 XT 16GB. I hate that it's gone up to $440, but that's still $100 less than the 5060 Ti 16GB. So either AMD is doing a better job supplying these, or just they haven't sold out as fast because Nvidia has more market share, more people are buying those, I don't know. But of the 16GB mid-range cards, the 9060 XT 16GB is the better option. But if you can't afford $440 and you have to buy something less than that, that's where I think the 5060 Ti 8GB makes the most sense. So this would be kind of the lower end side of things. 9060 XT 16GB, your next step up. And then your next step up from there is either the 5070 or the 9070. And either of those could make sense depending on your preferences between NVIDIA and AMD, and a little bit more VRAM versus not, and the two game bundles available on those. The XT version for $100 more still makes sense, and anything beyond this, just value is out the window, probably not worth getting. So that's where we're currently at in the GPU market. I'll keep doing updates on this on a regular basis as we see supply and demand and the new RAM price shipments come in, and we'll see how things settle. Now, again, with the Crimson Desert AMD sponsorship, it looks like we're also getting a Sapphire Nitro Plus 9070 XT Crimson Desert Edition with a February 2026 retail date. We got some screenshots here at videocards.com, so it looks like mostly just kind of get the Crimson Desert graphic on the back. Personally, I'm not that into game-branded versions here. But like it doesn't hurt, especially if it's a game that you're into. But there you go. Now, like I said, Nvidia has a GTC 2026 keynote confirmed for March 16th. That being said, if you're expecting anything PC gaming related from this announcement, I would say that GTC is the wrong conference for that. And we're also, again, not expecting to have a Super Series this year. The only new GPU we might get from Nvidia gaming side is rumored to be a 5090 Ti, which first of all, I wouldn't expect this soon in the year, so I wouldn't expect to hear about it here. And then also just that's going to be, if it is real, so expensive that most people just like, it doesn't matter. Like it might as well not exist. I mean, maybe we could hear something AI related that also touches on gaming. So, I mean, something related to their dynamic frame gen that's coming out soon after that, maybe, except that's already been announced. So I would expect not to hear anything gaming related at this, but maybe I'll be wrong. Now, the rumors regarding the next generation Xbox are starting to heat up. So first of all, we had AMD's CEO, I've already reported on this, mention that the hardware is on track for a 2027 launch as far as AMD's side of things producing the SoC. Now, that doesn't mean it will launch in 2027, but AMD's CEO, when talking to investors, was like, hey, we're on track for this. That could affect our revenue, right? We could be shipping the next gen Xbox. Now, are we going to expect that if it does launch, it'll sell anything? Well, first of all, if a new console with as much memory as we would expect to be in a next gen Xbox launches in 2027, RAM prices suck. They'll probably still suck in 2027. And so this thing could be insanely expensive. Now, what does that mean? Well, the thing is, if they were targeting the traditional console market, I think that could be disastrous. But that doesn't seem to be the strategy that is being rumored. The rumored strategy is that it's essentially a gaming PC. So in other words, this might be more of a Steam machine competitor than it is a PS6 competitor. In the sense that it could be running a full Windows operating system and run every PC game on it, and you could potentially even run stores like Steam on it. It could do everything a PC does. It's just a Windows PC, but it'll have a front end that's more controller and TV friendly. So in other words, it seems very likely that what Nvidia was doing with their ROG Xbox Ally handhelds, where they have the full screen Xbox experience, where it launches into a controller friendly full screen app that's gaming centered, that even might even get save you some system RAM usage and things like that as it shuts down non-essential things in the background. That's likely what Xbox is planning for their next console. Now, that's interesting because that might actually mean that, okay, could they actually offer us a gaming PC that makes sense, especially if if they're planning on selling enough software through this, that I doubt they're going to really subsidize this in the way that traditionally consoles have been sold at a loss in the past. I don't think we'd see that here, but we could at least see them be willing to basically break even on the hardware. And if they're ordering a custom SoC from AMD in a super large quantity, it's possible that they could offer a reasonable amount of performance per dollar compared to building your own system. So as a PC gamer, I'm actually way more interested in this if it actually is just a gaming PC than I would be if it was a traditional Xbox console. That being said, if it is a gaming PC and hits gaming PC price points, especially while RAM is still crazy, I don't expect this to sell anywhere near the quantity that a traditional console at a traditional console price would be able to target. The other reason why this is interesting is so that the rumors that we're seeing here, and again, sources will be in the video description, mention that work is being done to make it actually be backwards compatible with Xbox's past library. So that would be really interesting. So if this could actually play the Xbox games that never had a PC release, that would be, again, another big selling point compared to a traditional gaming PC. Now, where I see the downsides being, coming into play here would be if it is an SoC, like we would expect, you're not going to have like the upgradable GPU and CPU in the same way that you would on a traditional gaming PC. But this does actually look really interesting to me. From a PC gaming perspective, I don't think it's going to sell anything like traditional console numbers if this is the way that they go. And to be clear, this is all still in the leaks and rumors territory, but it's getting like Jez Corden has a pretty good track record with this kind of Microsoft insider type of leak. Now, we're also seeing leaks that Xbox's PC Game Pass is going to be combined into their other Game Pass platforms. Now, this is also consistent with this kind of strategy for Xbox moving forward. If Xbox essentially becomes PC, then there's no point in having a separate PC version of Game Pass. Now, recently, Game Pass pricing went up like crazy. The PC version is currently $16.49 a month if I wanted to sign up for it right now. And if I look at the other versions, that are more console focused, but can include PC as well. So like Xbox Game Pass Ultimate is $30 a month, and Xbox Game Pass Premium is $15 a month. And then they still have their essential version as well, which is $10 a month. Now, I've just got to think back to what a bad deal this is compared to what Game Pass used to be. Because, well, sure, they've expanded more games and more day one launches, etc. I'm reminiscing about this video. This is one of the very first YouTube videos I made. I think this was my second week of making YouTube videos. I had like 20 subscribers at the time. And then this was my first like really successful video. Where is this at now? This is up to 341,000 views. So now it certainly didn't get that right away when my channel was small. This one did kind of like a good long-term traffic as people like searched about, PC Game Pass. But if you go back and watch this back, like Game Pass used to cost a lot less. So it was way easier to justify it as like my my thesis in this video, my conclusion on PC Game Pass is it's so cheap that even though you don't own anything, it's like a really good demo system. So I could basically subscribe to it for so little money, I almost don't care. And now I can demo tons of games. And then if they leave the service, I could buy it and I didn't lose much money on it. But as the price of Game Pass has skyrocketed, and I actually monitored my own use of the service, I didn't end up using it all that much. And as the price went up, like $16.50 a month, like I can't just ignore that. That's stupid. I'm not going to be wasting that if I'm not really using this. So anyway, the rumors are that they're going to be kind of merging it with one of the other tiers, potentially the Game Pass Premium. Now, what that would do to the pricing of both, I don't know. And then the rumor is they would also try to be bundling in additional stuff. Like, one reason why the Game Pass Ultimate is so expensive now is that they have, like, Fortnite Crew, EA Play, Ubisoft Plus Classics, in-game benefits for, like, various live service stuff. My problem with all that is if there's benefits for games that I don't play or care about, then I'm paying for something. I'm like subsidizing somebody else getting that, right? I'm just wasting money on that monthly. So I really feel like with the price increases, the proposition for Game Pass has gone just completely out the window. I think that for some people it might still make sense, but I certainly unsubscribed a long time ago, and I don't have any plans of subscribing again. That's where I'm at with it. It's just too expensive now for how much I actually use it, and that you don't end up actually owning anything. Now, like I mentioned in the quick intro, a little more detail here. So we're starting to see multiple leaks that a Witcher 3 DLC, Witcher 3 DLC, despite how old the game actually is actually on track to be coming fairly soon. And these are leaks from a variety of sources and people who it would make sense could have some inside track information in all of this. So tons of sources saying that this is happening. Now, again, it could end up not being true, but I would say this is much more likely than not to actually be true, given the amount of sources we have on this. Now, we don't really know anything about the DLC, but given that we're getting closer and closer to, Witcher 4, I actually like this idea. I think this is cool. Given how long it takes to produce sequels now, the gap between games can be really long. So I think kind of hyping people back up on the franchise by dropping DLC for a long dead game. I mean, not dead in the sense. I mean, there's still tons of people playing Witcher 3, but like this game came out a long time ago, and the last, Blood and Wine came out a long time ago. But dropping a new DLC to kind of hype you up for the new franchise installment, I think makes tons of sense. And I think it could make sense for more games to try this out. What I would look for in this is, there's multiple endings to Witcher 3. And, I'm a little right. It's been a while since I played the game, but I think that can impact, where is Ciri in all of this? Because it's very clear by now that Ciri is the main character of Witcher 4. So, I think they kind of are going to have to pick a canon ending. And so maybe a Witcher 3 DLC could like kind of guide us in what are they choosing as a canon ending. And maybe this could serve as a bridge between the two games narratively. So that's what I would look for out of this if it does indeed come to pass. Maybe it's some horse armor. Who knows? All right. Now, StarCraft is one of my favorite games of all time. Brood War was amazing. Yes, I was one of those competitive RTS nerds. And StarCraft 2, I was grinding the solo ranking ladder and all that. And I'm, old enough that PC gaming RTS used to be huge. And it feels like that niche sort of got supplanted by MOBAs. And so we don't really have a lot of big RTS. Like, RTS games are coming out, but they're just not what they used to be. That used to be like the prime, I mean, first-person shooters were always big too, but like RTS games were a huge thing for PC gaming, and it's just faded away. So I've always been on the lookout for are they going to make a StarCraft 3? There's starting to be a lot of rumors that there's going to be a new StarCraft, but it's going to be a shooter. Now, again, being old, this instantly made me think about StarCraft Ghosts. If you were around, gaming for a long time, decades now, there was always, way before StarCraft 2 came out, but shortly after the original StarCraft and Brood War, it was clear that Blizzard was working on a StarCraft kind of third-person shootery sort of game, StarCraft Ghost, but it never actually came out. So maybe this is it. Are they rebooting it? I don't know. With where Blizzard's at with making money these days, are we just going to get more of a live service type shooter if we get a shooter? I don't know. That would be less interesting to me, but. In other PC, more gaming news side of things, we have Remedy, who is one of my favorite developers. So this is like Alan Wake and Control. They have a new CEO. Now, one of the reasons for that is likely they tried to make a live service game. I mean, they did make a live service game, but it did not really gather the player base that they were looking for with FBC Firebreak. The whole time we had heard about this development, I was just like, Remedy's strength is single-player, narrative-focused games that are for fans of Twin Peak and the X-Files and Twilight Zone, that kind of stuff. And those were some of my favorite shows growing up. So I'm super into this style of narrative, so great. And Control has been a pretty big success for them. And their announcement of Control, what is it? Resonant? Revenant? I'm spacing it out. Maybe they have it in the article. But the next Control game got announced at the Game Awards and looks like it's going to be a real big deal. However, the new CEO is a former sports gambling app guy and was an EA executive and wants to scale Remedy in a way that builds lasting value. I just want to say, I'm hoping what they did is they learned that Remedy's strength is not in live service games. Their strength is games like Control, single-player narrative-heavy games. And I think if you read their financial reports, I don't know if it's in this article or not, I think they sold another 1 million units of Control. A lot of that just recently. A lot of that driven by the announcement of the sequel. So, a lot of their games don't sell huge numbers initially, but they can have long tails because they review well. People eventually pick them up. So I'm really hoping that this doesn't kind of just ruin what this developer is, because they're not the big AAA, open world developer. They're not a live service developer. I love single-player, narrative-driven games, and I'm okay with things being a little bit of a corridor from time to time. And that's more of what Remedy excels at. And so I really want more of that. I do not want live service crap, and I'm a little bit worried. So we'll see. This video is getting a little bit long, so I'm not going to go much beyond the headline on here, but we're seeing a lot of rumors that Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag Remake could be announced and released soon. This had been on the list of stuff that could have been delayed by the restructuring at Ubisoft, but a lot of people were really interested in this. Also, the rumors are pointing to the modern day elements of the game just being cut because those were a little bit boring, and just focusing in on the historical piece of it, and maybe adding in some new quests, etc. So we'll have to see what happens with that. With that, let's wrap up the video. Hopefully you guys found it useful and or interesting, and I hope you all have an excellent day.